Continue our coverage on the heartbreaking tragedy on the Potomac. Wednesday night's midair collision between a commercial jet and a military helicopter left no survivors, marking the deadliest air disaster in nearly 24 years. Investigators are piecing together the final moments of the flight with recovered black boxes now under analysis. So what went wrong? And could this have been prevented? Let's bring in aviation expert Donte Mills, who is a private pilot and an aviation litigation attorney. Thank you for joining us. And still so many questions. The most obvious is what went wrong. I know it is still too early, the NTSB now just having the black boxes. But what do you think they can glean from analyzing those black boxes?
Good morning, Maureen. And the black boxes are very, very effective and impactful, and it helps you kind of give you a roadmap as to what happened, because ultimately you want to try to prevent this from happening again. I know there's nothing that can be done to take away this tragedy. These families that are affected, they're never going to get those lives back, but we can, hopefully moving forward, figure out a way to prevent this from happening. And what's being shown with the black boxes and the information, the one thing that everybody's looking at right now is the height of that helicopter. Right. It was too high, higher than it was supposed to be flown in regulation. And you have to wonder why. I know that they were doing some training drills. They also said it was off the flight path, the helicopter. We do know that that the commercial plane was coming into the airport. It was redirected to another runway, but it was on the standard path. And that path was announced to all of the aircraft in the area. All the aircraft in the area would have seen that that plane was coming into that runway at the height. So why was it that the helicopter was at that same height that allowed for a collision? That's the number one question. You don't know if it was pilot error, if they kind of got lost in the lights or the darkness, or if it was a part of their training where they were trying to do stealth flying, and going in different paths as a part of the training, and that allowed for that accident to happen. So those are the things that the experts are looking at now. But again, all with the goal of preventing another tragedy.
They're also looking at air traffic control, because that's been the question. You know, this is a heavily monitored airspace. Could something have gone wrong with air traffic control? You mentioned a lot of things, and from what you've said thus far, it sounds like maybe the onus is more on the helicopter pilot as to why were they flying so high. Air traffic control, though, there are questions there that need to be answered.
There is, and one of the questions was there's generally two people who are assigned to kind of monitor this space, and at the time it was one. However, I'll tell you, just flying into that airport, which I've done, and a lot of airports, there's congestion. So just because there's traffic does not mean an accident is supposed to occur. And in fact, pilots are used to dealing with that congestion. When I'm coming into an airport, I see that there's congestion. Essentially what you do is get in line, and you begin to do a circular path around the airport to make sure that you're not in the path of any other aircraft. And you essentially stand in line until it's your turn to land. Even if you have to keep circling around, there's a path that you do that with. So air traffic control does direct all of these planes, but it's hard to say that they made an error when the helicopter that collided with that aircraft was outside of its normal path. So did they do something that aircraft told them not to do?
I want to bring in just another aspect of this, because you are a aviation litigation expert as well. In cases like this, what are the biggest legal questions the families of the victims face in the aftermath?
Who's responsible, right? Who did something they were not supposed to do? And that's what we're talking about here. Is it the helicopter for being outside of the path that was supposed to be on, or the height that it was supposed to be at? So when I'm talking to these families, or I'm looking up, when I have my investigators looking into it, I'm trying to recreate the situation and then match that with what's supposed to happen. And then there's something that's going to stick out, because airplanes want to fly. Planes are built to fly. They generally do. So if there's a crash, something went wrong, something was done that wasn't supposed to happen, and that's what you're looking for, that piece to stand out, so you can identify it and then determine who was responsible for it.
Donte, unfortunately, we have to keep it there. So many questions, though, that so many people have are still unanswered. I know that a lot of this will lead to changes, hopefully, that will lead to better safety measures. Donte Mills is a private pilot and an aviation litigation attorney. We thank you so much for your insight this morning.
Thank you. And we're also praying for the people in Philadelphia in that crash and that tragedy up there.
Indeed we are. Thank you for that.